Welcome to November 7th edition of Kelly and Company. Christine Malec today on the program tells us how she's practicing talking and playing music at the same time. A task that she realized is a lot harder than she originally thought. Also, Markus McCrackin promises no more button mashing. Not after you modify your Xbox controller, that is. And Mary Mammoliti joins us for our foodie chat to unreveal for us the 2 pasta ingredients and a brand new cake that showed up at Costco. Oh boy, I love cake.
This is Kelly and Company.
Thanks for being with us. Ramya Muthan joins me here. Ram, good day to you.
Good day to
Nazreen
you.
Abdel-Majid joining us too, our technical producer. Ladies, I know we're a very food-driven program, as of course referencing Mary joining us on the show. So what I thought I would do is share this with you. A chef tempers chocolate while paragliding in Switzerland. Wow.
Is
So
this
on the
like a
ground,
world record thing?
well, no, I think it's just a fun thing. It's gone a
All
little
right.
viral. Now, at first he's shown playing around with it, checking the temperature and stuff like that. By the way, this is from NDTV Food. And of course, this guy, which has gone viral on Instagram, and Nazreen, I'm sure you've probably taken a look at this. This chef is suspended in midair making chocolate, has just gone like so viral and taken the world by storm. The reel shows 2 people flying using a paragliding apparatus. One of them is the pastry chef who's seen tempering chocolate while stirring it in a jar. Finally, we see him carefully pouring it into a bunny-shaped mold. Once all the inner sides are coated, he also creates a base with chocolate. When he lands, we get to see the final product, and some of the reactions that have been said are the following, ladies. Then I'll get yours. Next level cool. Spill it on someone below, somebody said. Can you imagine that? Hey, what's falling from above? This
Hopefully it
is
cools down while
crazy.
it falls.
It's so crazy. I
Oh,
tried
beautiful.
parasailing and it's similar, right?
Yeah.
I couldn't breathe properly when I was parasailing. Imagine making chocolate and then doing that. I can't.
In
There's no way.
Switzerland,
True.
too. The world of
You
chocolate.
know, like what if the wind is so hard? Like I want to know the whole process. Like how did he think of the idea that this could work? I want to know.
I mean,
So
I'm curious because he's done some other stuff before, right? Like he was seeing, or was it him or other people? But
I
anyways,
think it
I'm
was
curious
other
about what.
people.
Oh, okay. Doing like wild stuff while they're skydiving, etc. But I'm
Yeah.
curious what he did to practice this because it's not like tempering chocolate is the same when you're
Yeah.
doing it on ground, on the stove, whatever tempering chocolate really is. It's just making sure it gets to the right temperature so you can mold it, right?
Yeah.
Anyway,
It
And
doesn't
but
look
that's
like
a trick in
a
itself.
one-time thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
it
and
is.
wouldn't that be a trick in
Yeah.
itself, keeping it at the right temperature, that high in the air, the coldness over
That's
Switzerland?
what I
'Cause
mean.
that's
The elements are
generally
affecting the
chillier.
whole thing.
Yeah.
Right. So
Um,
how did he make sure he did it right and make it into that bunny mold? And this guy sounds like he has had practice, clearly.
Well, he must have done some prep, right? And I mean, must be certainly at least comfortable with the gliding. Obviously, we know he's comfortable with the tempering chocolate. Before his video, by the way, there is a video of someone, a skydiver, eating cereal in the air. He makes it in midair. He opens a fanny pack, gets it dumped into a bowl, even chops some banana to go along with it. So, kind of unique, kind of talking multitasking, whether you're the chef making and tempering chocolate, pouring into a mold, or
Mhm.
doing cereal, or maybe even singing and strumming a guitar at the same time. Christine Malec is a musician who's a licensed busker in the Toronto subway system. And Chris, you have kind of been mastering something a little unique, but probably I say that because a lot of us take the skill for granted. Welcome back to the show, but the first time to our YouTube audience meeting you. How's things going? And welcome aboard.
Thank you, thank you. I'm very happy to be here, feeling quite small potatoes now because I'm not paragliding and tempering chocolate.
While
But
doing anything.
while doing anything. But so this thing where you talk while you play, everyone's heard it a million times, right? You're at a concert and there's a musician and they're on stage and they're telling you a little story about the song they're going to play, whatever, and they're doing this. And we've all heard it and you're like, "Oh, that must be so easy." And it is so hard. It's so hard. And so when I started to try and do it, I my brain it wanted to explode after I was done. I could do it for about 30 seconds, and then as you can see right now, I'm starting to get a little like incoherent, and it's kind of hard
Wobbly.
to keep my thread of talking. So I have a threshold for it. It's so much harder than I thought. It's outrageously more difficult. It's the kind of brain hand different parts of your brain working at the same time in a way that I
Yep.
did not anticipate how hard it was going to be. It's outrageous. It's
Do you play the
outrageously
keyboard? Do you play the piano, Chris?
I do, and
Okay.
I see, I can play the guitar and sing, no problem at
Yes.
all. I can play the keyboard and sing. I'm gonna keep trying.
Yep.
I can play the keyboard and sing, no problem at all. But speaking is a completely different brain area or something, and there's no rote. There's no like song lyrics that you're remembering right now. I'm
No.
just trying to speak while I'm creating music. It's not music, but it's just sort of rhythmical, pleasing to the ear thing. And
And it's off the
so
cuff, really, isn't it? Like, I mean, I'm sure you could
yes,
practice that. People could practice their transitions, if they're doing a show and they know, but really a lot of it is off the cuff.
Well, the
yes, and
difficulty is, like, this is the breakdown in the way that I hear it is the difficulty is your guitar is playing at a particular rhythm, right? And a particular, what do you call that? The
tempo,
tap tap,
like
yeah, tempo or metronome,
tempo,
right?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yeah, it's a particular kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. But your flow of talking is not supposed to match that. So it's all the off the cuff stuff you guys are talking about, but it's also that when you're talking, your flow of talking is not necessarily coinciding or coordinating with the rhythm of what you're playing. So that's why your brain's
Mhm.
all mashed up.
Well, and the brain works that way with theater. If you're acting, you go by what you know should come next. The person's cue line tells you basically what
Right.
you're leaping in. You have so many supports, like singing an actual song. You know what's going to come, and if you're playing it at the same
Mhm,
time,
mhm.
it all matches, and it's your mouth and fingers are in tandem in some way. That's the way our
Yes,
minds do it. It's interesting, Chris. You make mention that I can go so long, and then all of a sudden, the wobbling starts.
yes, yes,
Yeah, at some point,
exactly.
one part of your brain is trying to match the other thing that's going on
Or it
It's
realizes, "What
exhausting.
the hell are we doing?
and
Oh,
jump.
man,
I'm
we're doing this
tired.
again? Whoa, 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 forget
It's
it."
like sprinting. It's a bit like sprinting, like you're running
Yes.
and then you just go, "I'm done. I can't do this
Yeah.
anymore. I need to rest. I need to rest."
I asked if you
Why,
played
Chris?
keyboard because your two hands are playing two separate things, but I still think there's the rhythmic conversation going on in keyboard, right? Which feels a little different than the talking playing guitar.
Yeah, actually, okay.
Mm.
I'm gonna try a different tempo and see if I can do it now. See, I'm talking faster. I can't seem to moderate the like now I'm talking really fast. But yes, the two hands are doing something different and but they're still the same, like there's still the same musical
Uh-huh.
vibe going on with the hands, whereas there's something different going on from the brain about talking and creating a dialogue or a monologue or speaking.
You know what?
How
You're doing
much?
well. You're doing really
I'm
well, first of
sweating.
Well,
all.
you are,
Thank you.
Kudos.
especially faster, right? Do you find it easier because you're doing it faster than if you were doing it slow? Because I know a lot of time you listen to people and they're talking, but basically strumming as if they're getting their guitar into the right tune, tuning it the way they want for the next song they're going to play. And I think a lot of us take that for granted and just say, well, they're just basically tuning up and they're just strumming. They're not really playing,
Hmm.
but you were playing.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Drumming is playing.
There's a pattern. It's
Yeah.
repetitious and simple, but it's a pattern. And interestingly, I'm gonna keep doing it. When I went faster, it's not actually harder. But it would be okay, I'm gonna try this. It would be very hard how much harder
Yes.
to speak
To talk
slowly
slower and
and
play
play faster.
faster.
Okay, that's
Yep.
really
Yes.
hard. That's really hard.
Yep.
Yes.
So it
Yeah.
was
Yeah, and
easier to play fast and speak fast. That was not
it's the
harder to do
controls
it.
in our head. It's so funny because it
Oh,
goes along
it's
with what you
so
said about what
subtle.
we were talking about, singing and playing at the same time, because that's supposed to match whatever you're singing,
Yeah.
doing a conventional song. I mean, I know people have different things or changes during songs. I get that, but it seems part of it. You practice that. This, whether it's off the cuff or not, the mind does so many interesting things. It's like when they used to say when we had 7-digit phone numbers and everybody changed to having 10-digit. Oh my goodness, my head's not slotted for that.
And it's true that people say, like, people who don't have the skill yet of playing and singing at the same time, they say, I don't know how you can do that. And so obviously it's a skill that you learn, that your brain learns to do. You train yourself to do it. And so I'm just training my brain at this very moment as I'm using this opportunity to train my brain in a new way. And so it's
Why?
just a
Mm.
brain training thing. Why?
Why, Chris? Yeah, why did
Good
you want to
question.
do this?
Why do I want to do this? So, I'm
This is
working on
cool.
a piece that's a play. I'm working on this piece that's a sort of a theater piece, and it's about my experiences of busking. And so, I want to have my
Mm.
guitar with me, and some of the piece will involve
Mm.
singing,
Yeah,
but there's a
yeah.
lot of monologue, there's a lot of talking. And I just think it's so much more interesting to have music in the background. And I think of when I'm listening to a performer on stage and they're between songs, do I like them to be strumming, or do I like them to just talk? And I'm way
Yeah,
more engaged when they're strumming while they're telling me a story about
yeah,
what the song's going to be about. And I thought that's really classy. That's what I want to do. And in this theater piece, I want to be able to have that going on as I sort of do a little monologue. I don't want it to just be my voice talking about things. And so I thought, oh, no problem. I'll just whip that off. But no, it's not turning out that
It's
way.
a skill
wow.
building
Well,
practice.
I think about it because I said to Jacob this morning on Am I Today, it was, to me, it would have been adding that extra piece of being able to remotely sing in tune for a musical I might audition for. I said, "Guys, I'll stop at
Mm.
the dancing, forget it." But if there was a play I was going to be involved in as an actor, I wouldn't mind taking some lessons, getting better at doing that. The show you're talking about, I'm curious, I'm assuming it's a one-hander.
A one-hander? Is that theater
Solo.
talk for a one
Yes.
person?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
yeah,
One
exactly.
person show.
Yeah.
see how ignorant I am? I've never done theater at all, 0. And so
Ah.
actually what it will be is me doing this kind of thing, but in off to the side there will be this completely silent cast of characters walking by like subway passengers, and they'll be
Mhm.
acting out little stories that are
Oh.
reactions to what I'm doing, but I'll
What
never
you're
know them
doing.
because I can't see them. And it's the whole piece is about the stories of the things that
Of
land in my
this.
guitar case, and why
Ah.
why did someone
Sweet.
give me a bouquet of flowers, why did someone give me a stale Timmy's donut, like.
Yep,
And so
yep.
those are stories I'll never know. There's so many stories I'll never know.
Nope.
And so as a blind person, I don't know even what the people walking by, how they're reacting. So the piece is sort of pending funding in terms of audio description, because I'm unwilling to present the piece without audio description, because there
Mm.
is this
Mm.
completely silent component that is essential to the piece that I want to create. So
Could
I'm
could
still working
you
on the skills.
could you, without taking away from the storytelling, add the, like, the integrated audio description basically within your script, do you think? Or would people still lose too much of what's going on in those side scenes? Just a curious
Yeah,
question.
no, it's a good question. And it's interesting because as a description user, I'm always like, well, of course you need description. And if you can't have audio description, why not have embedded description? But the truth is that there's a value in stories being separate. And so
Mhm.
my story of me sitting here
Yes.
busking
Yep.
for people is one part, but the stories I'll never know of the passengers going by, those are separate. And that separateness is part of the artistic point of the piece. And
Mhm.
so I don't want to be doing embedded description in that way, but I love the idea of theater with embedded
Yeah.
description,
It's
but
a
I also love.
tricky, and this would be
Yeah.
tricky, and like you say, you don't want one taking from the other. Your case open for those items is like the separating line between the scenes and you.
Yes. Yes,
Really
and
Chris,
cool.
it's this. Yeah.
go ahead.
Oh, just that in real time, in the real world, when I am busking, that's literally true. That's the separating line between me doing the thing the thing I'm doing,
Mm.
and the people who are reacting to it. And if they speak with me, then I know what their reaction might be, or if they, give me cash, which is always ideal,
Mhm.
then I sort of
Not
know that
don
I've reached
not
them in
stale
some
donuts.
way. Well, not stale
Yeah, what the
donuts.
heck?
I got a bottle of
Snowstorm to
unopened
win.
bottle of hand soap the other day. It was awesome. They gave me something I
Oh,
could use,
yeah.
Wow.
So it's a mixed
And
bag, but there
probably
is
you
that
wonder,
line.
is that the only thing they had, but they were so appreciative of what you were doing that you feel
Right?
like, "I have to give you something."
Someone gave me a single cigarette, and I scratched my head because I don't smoke, but for them, that cigarette is probably worth 2 or
Uh-huh.
$3, and they're a
True.
smoker, and so that has huge value to them, but
Yeah.
0 even negative value to
Right.
me. And so again, the stories that I'll never what motivated that person, it was something true for them, but something
This is
that I can't
so
use.
intriguing.
I
It's like
know.
Um, um,
it's so
wow.
intriguing because of you never knowing the stories and not even the
Mhm.
interaction as it's happening
Mhm.
in real
Mhm.
time because you're blind. So,
Mhm.
um,
Yeah, yeah.
but going back to the actual skill of this guitar strumming while storytelling, do you know anyone in your life who does it well, and do you track them or do you have conversations with them about how they've done it, or just
No,
admire them in
no.
awe?
I listen to people like Todd Snyder is an amazing musician and he does this. So I listen to people who do it so I know what I'm aiming for, but I don't know anyone, which is funny because I know many musicians, like informal musicians,
Yeah,
but I don't actually know anyone who does this because when would you do this other than in a performance context? Like if you're
Yes.
true.
jamming with friends, there's no reason to do this. Or if you're sitting in your living room playing guitar, there's no reason for you to do this. So
No,
people
but if you
just
go to a concert and you hear,
yeah,
someone teeing up
it's
the
so
next
common.
song, it's so common, and but no one talks about building it as a skill. Do you record yourself and listen back and think like, "Ooh, I cheated there"?
Oh, God, no. Thanks for the idea, though. I
Or do
probably
you wait for the
should. I
pounding
should
from
do that.
downstairs to say, "That's enough,
Right?
okay,
I
Chris,
would
Shut up! I'm so
take a
lucky I
break."
live in a
totally do
household of
that.
musicians. People are very tolerant. But no, you're right, Ramya. I should record myself because that's the true test, right? All your friends will
That's
just
so
say, "Oh, you're
true.
doing great," but really, recording is the
Yeah, like listen to
Um,
it and then hear how you hear it back versus how other people hear it
yes.
back. Because half the time, I'm sure we wouldn't know, that you cheated
well,
here
Oh,
and
and
again,
missed
as
a
an
beat
audience
there.
member, we often just take it for granted. And I'll be honest, and I hate to say this, unless they're playing something from a song that I know sounds like an actual song they play, somebody plays. If a lot of time it's just strumming, I just think they're frigging around, and
Mm,
it doesn't really matter. I wouldn't even think how much work is that, except when you
right.
intentionally change rhythm, speed, or what you're saying, and you're having some fun with it. I think, oh my gosh, that's hard. Because I just think
mm,
it's throwaway.
It's true. It sounds that way, and if you're doing it properly, that's what it should sound like. And I was at a Billy
Yeah.
Bragg show. I was at a Billy Bragg show a few weeks ago, and he really did a lot of shout out to buskers, and he said you can pretty much do this, and he was strumming like this, like the boom, 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 boom. He said you can do that for 10 minutes, and everyone thinks you're going to do something great. So if you don't know what you're going to play next, just keep doing this, and
Yeah.
look like you know what you're doing. And everyone's expecting something, and you look fine because you're just doing this. Everyone assumes you know what's going on and you have a plan. So, when you eventually figure out what you're going to play, you have to figure out how to transition from this to the, like, but there's this skill
yeah.
of just, la, la, and it just sets people's expectation. Like it sets this kind of relaxing vibe,
Mm.
background,
I've seen
mood
this in a
thing
lot of
where you
fringe
can do
plays.
anything. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because people
Yeah.
cart with their guitars, and you get a lot of shows that are music-based storytelling, similar to what you're talking about,
Mhm,
where
mhm.
there's a bunch of songs they've written, but this to kind of string everything together, you'll get those moments where they'll do this. You'll get some dry moments where there's
Mm.
no music under them, but often warming up to something or something familiar to us, they may play, which is the kind of transition to their next story. Chris, who's helping you put this together? May I ask? Like, can you give us a bit of the process, just because I'm nosy and curious, just as much as you obviously feel comfortable to
Yeah,
share.
of course. Of course. It's an organization in Toronto called Women at Play, and they do a production each year of 5 short plays written and produced completely by women. And so I'm in the pool of plays that might get produced, but we're honestly just waiting on a funding question because I said I'm just not comfortable presenting this piece without audio description. It's just not right for me particularly as a blind person to present a piece that's not available to my community. community. So it's kind of pending on that. But they're called Women at Play, and it's a completely bizarre opportunity. It came, just sort of fell in my lap. A friend said, "Do you want to try this?" And I've
Yeah.
never, like I said, theater is totally, completely new ground for me. So I just said, okay, I'll try it and see.
Yeah.
But so it's pending funding, but still, I'm working on the skill, because if it happens, it will be in March, and I want to be really solid in being comfortable with that skill before it's needed, if it's needed.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. Well, good luck with it, because, of course, I get
You
all excited
sound
over these
great.
things when it comes to theater, and I know this is a skill. I know then when you add,
Yeah.
Chris, get it down well, because then you'll add movement,
A script,
blocking.
Oh,
movement. No, no,
Yes.
no, 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 no,
Oh,
no. I'm
just a
squatting
couple of
on my.
steps,
everybody
Nope,
Chris.
jump in with your ideas.
nope, 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 nope. Not happening. No, I'm on my
Oh.
squatty little busking stool, and I stay in one place. That's all I'm doing. So,
Oh
but there'll
my
be a
goodness.
script. There'll be a
Yep.
script
Singer
for me to,
Yep.
songwriter. Mm.
singer
Yep.
song. Well, there's songs, but there's also the talking script that I'll have to memorize
Yeah,
and be doing while I'm playing. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that'd be
a lot
nice.
going on. But
Beautiful.
I love to be learning new things. It's good for the brain.
Well, we'll help you practice, Chris. I think what we'll do is have you strum your guitar every time you're here for an appearance between now and March, right? Just to help you get kind of, 18
Fabulous,
minutes of the background of whatever.
right?
That'll be wonderful. Thanks, Chris.
See, it's really soothing. Yeah, thanks very much.
Yeah. Oh man, that's awesome. Christine Malec joining us. We'll talk arts with Chris every 2 weeks on the program. Really interesting when people you share with us kind of the works in progress. Like, I think this is a great opportunity. I love the name of the group, the At Play business, and the double meaning. But when you hear someone say, I have to learn how to do this, and I get into this with other theater artists, when they
Mm-hmm.
say, man, I got to learn how to do this. I remember being in a show with a guy that had a didgeridoo. And it was really
Oh,
interesting
cool.
how much messing around he'd be doing with it to get the ow, wah, ow, wah, ow, and that going.
Mm-hmm.
It was so much fun.
It is a lot of fun, and there are instruments that just play really well to this kind of thing, right? Like amping up
Mhm.
people or putting people in that mood or mode or vibe right before they get into a particular kind of song. And with Chris, because she is, like I said, singer-songwriter, and she really does, just sit down with her guitar. She tells stories, she sings, and she just owns a room in that quiet way or low-key way. And the guitar, I think if she can bring it in more and more, as she was kind of doing during the segment, right? Like I feel very relaxed just
Yeah.
from hearing the guitar
Right?
Yep.
behind us while she was talking. So sweet.
I like when she picked it up, Niz, when she, tried to do it faster, because to me, I almost thought that would be easier, because it's sort of like running downhill until you lose control of yourself, but
Yeah.
it's easier than the walk downhill.
Yeah, I feel like when she was talking slower, it was harder for her. And honestly, when you think about it, you're trying to control yourself, the speed, so you're focused on that. Obviously, it's going to be harder. For me, as a DJ, I cannot multitask and talk to people while I'm DJing. So I'll tell them to hold on 1 second, I'll do my
Yeah.
thing, and then
Do your
get back to
transition.
talking to them. I
Yeah.
really
Right.
want to
Yeah.
learn to multitask and do both, but I really can't. I stumble. That's what I do,
Yeah.
and
It's
that's a
difficult though.
talent to multitask like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
It's
It's a
difficult,
real.
and you also kind of have to like start in lower places, right? Like,
Mhm.
they always tell you random things like brush your teeth with your opposite hand or something, like where you're training the other parts of your brain, and making it more and more like a process or progress
Mhm.
from one tiny skill to another to do the bigger
It's
things.
it's nice when you're naive and don't realize something you do is hard, and you just naturally do it, and people say, "Wow,
Yeah.
I wish I could do that." Do what? What
Or
you're
you
doing there? I
practice
I
like
can't do that.
unintentionally.
Oh, yeah, you
Hmm.
don't know. No one ever told you until then, to once you've had it down. Man, that's hard to do. You shouldn't be able to do that. Huh? What? I
Really,
shouldn't?
yeah.
Oh, cool. Folks, follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Kelly and Co. AMI, Nizreen Abdul Majid, Ramya Muthan, Kelly McDonald. Here we are today for another edition of Kelly and Company.
And we got about 15 minutes with Mary Mammoliti, chef, kitchenconfession.com. That's where you go. You follow her on Instagram, on TikTok for all the recipes and foodie chats that she brings up. But we got 15 minutes with her, and we want to get to absolutely everything. One is secret ingredients, but very simple ingredients that can elevate our favorite dishes, from tomato sauces with surprising twists to an irresistible New dessert at Costco, and obviously that's where I want to get to, but we
Oh,
also
sure.
are throwing in some chunky chili because we heard that Kelly doesn't like chili, so why
Yeah,
not bring it
yeah,
up on
my
the show?
favorite. I'm right on
All right.
that.
Mary, welcome back. Let's start with the pasta, please. You have 2 must-have ingredients that you say is going to take our tomato sauce to the next level. What are they, and how do we expect them to transform our sauce like they've been transforming yours?
Okay, so the 2 ingredients I always add to my pasta sauce, Parmesan rind or a chunk of fresh Parmigiano Reggiano.
Oh,
And I'll explain why with the difference between the 2 and why I use them. And then there's butter that I use at the end, right? So, I mean, I
okay.
love
That
tomato
is
sauce. Yeah,
new.
butter.
That's
Butter
new.
is
Okay.
a game changer, right? So, I mean, I love tomato sauce. I love any kind of tomato sauce. I've cooked it so many different ways. And I'm not really one to follow recipes with it. I write recipes for them.
Mayor, does
I
it
don't
cut it
follow
a bit? Because
recipes.
I'm not a big tomato sauce person, but when you introduce cheese, butter, whatever to something, my ears perk up. So do you find if we don't love the tardiness of the tomato, does it cut it a bit?
So here's the thing, if you're getting that tardiness or that acidity, if you're really sensitive to that,
Yeah.
add a little bit of sugar to your sauce.
Ah,
I don't because what I do instead, but that's one quick way. Like if you don't want to sit there,
right.
I usually let my simmer, and I let it simmer
Hmm.
for at least an hour. And what that does is it kind of cuts down the acidity. If you add a little bit of sugar to it, it'll probably be a little more palatable for you because it'll take down
Okay.
that acidic. It'll, yeah, and you don't have to cook it as long, but I like to let mine simmer. And that's what happens. And that's probably what you're finding with your tomato sauce. And that's probably why you're kind of steering clear for a bit, is because you do find that tanginess,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Hmm.
And the
So back to
That's
butter,
amazing.
the,
it adds,
yeah, it adds.
go ahead.
Oh no, I was
It
just
just
gonna
adds
ask
like the
about the.
silkiness.
Okay, yes, and we'll add that to the end. But you were talking about adding the Parmesan rind or fresh
Mm,
Parmesan. So what's the difference?
So the difference between the two, I mean, once I find whatever's in my pantry, whatever herbs I have, whatever spices, I add them in, I do my thing. The Parmesan rind, it adds this little extra depth and this little extra saltiness, and maybe even like an umami kind of ish flavoring to it. So it gives us this little deeper taste to the
yeah.
tomato. Because you'll find the tomato, it can be very right in your face, right for so it kind of mellows that a little bit as well, because you're incorporating more flavors. And then what I do want to mention though is when you're adding the rind, right? So it doesn't melt. It does melt. It won't dissolve completely. So you got to kind of fish around after to pull that out before you
Okay.
serve it. You don't want to serve it with that. And this is why I choose to use, right? Like
Right.
it's a
Yep.
surprise. It's like getting the golden ticket. You got the Parmesan rind. Um, but
Mm.
I like to use fresh Parmigiano Reggiano. So I cut a chunk of it, maybe a thumb size of it, and then I add that to my sauce and let it simmer with the tomato sauce while it's cooking because that will melt and dissolve into that tomato sauce. So for me, this way I don't have to go with my spoon spinning and turning and trying to find this
Yeah.
thing. It's like finding Waldo. There's no way. I mean, there are times where I just leave it. And I'll say, whoever
Does it
gets
feel
it,
different though?
surprise.
Like, does it
It
taste different?
does. It
Sorry, if
does.
yeah, the
The
rind's
taste,
better.
I mean, it's not great. It's kind of mealy. It's not great, but that's what I choose. If you're like me and you don't want to go through all that, just cut
And
a chunk of it,
besides, Mayor,
throw it into the
it rhymes better with Parmesan. Ah!
it's true.
Everything does. That's amazing.
Everything
Good.
does.
True.
Of course.
Right? And then
All right.
butter. Have you butter is
Yeah.
another game changer. Right?
Yeah.
Adding
How
butter
much
to
butter
tomato
do we
sauce.
add?
So this could be done two ways. I would do maybe a tablespoon or two. I usually start with a tablespoon, depending on how much tomato sauce you're making. And
Mhm.
then
Okay.
you could do it one of two ways. Add it directly into your sauce and let it all simmer together with the other ingredients. The only thing is that I find this results in like a little mild hint of buttery goodness, right? It fades into the background. It's not really at the forefront of anything, which is nice. It's very subtle, it's very pleasant, but there's nothing subtle about me. So I prefer adding a tablespoon of butter right at the end. So just before you're adding in that cooked pasta to mix everything up, just add it right at the end. It gives it like this silky texture. It clings to the pasta. It's so good. And it adds like this richness to the sauce. I mean, butter to anything is just spectacular. So it's just adding that extra goodness to it and that richness. Honestly, give it a try. Give it a try and
Okay.
then let me know what you think.
Well, as a not a big fan of tomato sauce, not really a big
Right.
pasta kicker. Boy, you have me intrigued, especially when you talk about adding that rind in there and the butter just to make that difference. So really, hold on, Mayor. Sorry, I
Okay,
noticed there's
okay.
a news thing here coming in. I got to address a new cake spotted at Costco.
Heck yeah.
Tiramisu scoop cakes.
Oh my
What is
gosh.
a tiramisu scoop cake? Mayor, do you know anything about this? You're the foodie.
It's everything we've ever wanted in a
I
Costco
do.
cake. That's what I think.
It really is. It was just pure magic for me. I mean, one of my favorite cakes are tiramisu. And if like you asked, what is it? If you don't know, it's got espresso infused ladyfinger cookies. It's got mascarpone mousse, which is not overly sweet, so it's light, it's
Mm-hmm.
fluffy, and then it's got a generous dusting of cocoa powder right on top, and just finishes everything off. You can tell like it's so excited, it's like I'm part of this dish. I just love it. And honestly, Costco's version, it's the perfect potluck contribution. So if you're going somewhere, and you need something to bring it. Bring this tiramisu. If I don't know if there's a celebration. I mean, I'm having a hard time thinking of things because I just buy
Yeah,
it,
like what do
grab
you
a
mean?
spoon,
Just buy it and
That's right.
have it and
just
at your
buy it.
house? You don't even
It's
have to
kind of a
slice it
human
up, just
reaction. I
dig
have to
right in.
find an excuse for it. No, you don't. I like
I
it.
love that you're
There's your
giving us
excuse.
reasons to buy this cake. No, we got it. Get the cake. Um,
Just get the cake. Get the cake, eat the cake, and then wash it down with maybe a little coffee, a little tea, something. Something. You will
my
love this.
gosh, I am
And
Wow.
so excited. Now, does it taste
Um,
like
right?
fresh tiramisu? I'm a
It does.
stickler. Yeah?
It does. Yes, because
Okay.
I'm picky when it comes to
That's what I'm saying.
tiramisu. It does.
Yeah.
somebody has
It
to be
does
because
not
I don't know.
taste
I just
like
like it.
Mm-mm.
and
Mm-mm. This
honestly,
is
no
legit.
shade, no nothing to the
Mhm.
pre-made little single serving tiramisu cups that we've found in grocery stores or whatever. Those are
No
okay,
thanks.
but you
Yeah.
really don't get that exactly. You don't get that freshness from it. And that's what you
Okay.
get with this one. And that's why I do like it. Um and you can have this honestly for about 24 to $27. It does sell out. When I first discovered it, there were people waiting for it. Like
Oh,
waiting
yeah.
at the
Is
bakery
that
for
what
them to
happened, Mary? You
stock.
saw the lineup and said, "What are you people doing?" Tiramisu scoop.
I
Don't tell her
actually
that. There's only a few left.
I'm one of those people. I had it on my grocery list. I'm like, I gotta get this. I get
Ah.
there, and of course, Frank looks at me. He's like, "There's people waiting. Are we doing this?" I said,
Of course we
"Yes,
are.
we are."
It's tiramisu.
Oh,
I said,
yeah,
"Have you just
yeah.
met me?" Like, of course I'm in there. Um,
Yeah.
I have a question
so
for you, Mayor,
it's definitely
on
worth a try.
partying. I have a question
Yep.
on if you're bringing an item to when I say partying, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. If you're bringing a dessert to somebody's party or a function, um,
Yep.
where do you, Mary, cut yourself off as a very convenient chef of it's okay to go buy the tiramisu scoop cake or tuxedo cake or something from Costco, or the what
Mhm.
kind of event does it have to be where you're making one of your own creation to bring?
Oh, I
Whether it's
love
for
this
and for
You gotta
what
question.
really
reason?
like her friends.
Yeah. Really like
You
them
know what?
or impress
You're
or want
gonna
to impress?
Yeah.
honestly, it boils down to time. So if it's something where time has slipped away from me and I don't have time to make anything, I think of what's hot right now, what's fun right now, what's trending right now in food. And then I bring something that's trending or that's a hot topic. And then this way, I kind of redeem myself because I brought something
Mm.
that no one's tried yet. And they're like, "Oh," and then you can have a little story to tell with it. Um, so if it comes down to timing, that's what I do. That's my savior is
Mm.
finding something, but making sure that it's something that's trending. So I have a little story to attach to it. As a foodie, that's what
Otherwise,
I
the
do.
go-to is to bake it, right? Or like yourself.
Yes.
And is there
Yeah.
of the bake it kind before we move on to something I really don't want to talk about, but anyway, um, is there the kind of cake, kind of circumstance you would make a certain kind, whether it's a more decadent cake or the I want to bake something, but what's my go-to quick cake?
Go to quick would have to be some type of loaf. So
Oh, okay.
depending
Oh,
on if
okay.
it's a
Banana
casual
So
loaf or
event,
Ramya's
something.
birthday party would be a loaf. Mine would be the more decadent cake. Excellent.
Mm.
Yeah,
I don't
and then
think
if
that's
it's
what she
someone who
said at all.
doesn't well, if it's someone who doesn't like sweets, but you wanna bring something, bring a chip dip board. If you've never
Oh,
Yeah,
had one, you need to try
no.
this. Yeah,
yeah.
Oh,
it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of
have
fun.
you had it,
The
Ramya?
boards are trending all over the place. Like
Have you
some
had
board
this
or
chip
another
dip
is
one though?
trending once a year. No, like have it at a party? No, my
Or
friends.
just in your house by yourself eating it, which I can see more than you at a
That's a
party
fair
with it.
question, but no.
Yeah. What
I
is
guess
it,
we've had
Mare?
like casual versions of it.
What is it, Mare?
The chip dip board,
Yeah.
it's just a whole bunch of different types of potato chips, different types of chip dips.
Okay. Wow.
And then you just kind of lay it on the board. You add a couple of dried fruits if you want, but I normally don't. And then I
Oh,
just get anything kind of
Because why would you
salty and
ruin a chip
savory
dip
and
board with
add it to the board,
fruits?
well,
right?
dry fruit.
Just anything
Dry
that's
fruit
salty
would
and
be nice,
savory.
eh, Mare? Mare, some nice dry fruit.
Dry
This is
fruit,
almost.
couple of
This is.
nuts.
Come on, guys.
Yeah. It's in
Be
the
honest
realm of
here.
charcuterie board, but not even
Be
close
honest.
to as good.
Okay, enough with distracting dilly dallying. Let's get to the chunky chili, Mary.
Yeah, Mare's got
I
an
know
appointment to get
Kelly's
to.
favorite.
Yeah.
So, chunky chili. Guys, it's meaty. It's loaded with beans. It's packed with spices, seasoning. It's the perfect meal for cozy nights. I mean, it's one of the first things I start really making a lot of as soon as the fall hits. And then I go right through the winter with it.
Yep.
Not gonna lie, I do it a bit in the summer as well. I just love the feeling of chili.
Comforting chili.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's comforting to me. And again, it's hit or miss for people, which I understand. But Kelly, we have to get you on this chili at some point.
I mean, you hit with the meat part at least. It depends on the meat and the quality of it. Like ground beef.
Exactly.
You'd have to sell me on something else a little. Maybe I don't know. It would be a try for a small bowl.
You can mix the meats. I mean, like I
Mm.
said, this is all
Ooh,
about
ooh,
experimenting a little bit, even with the chili,
right.
because they're special ingredients, right? So they're just little secret ingredients that you personalize and make it your own. So for me, adding like one or two special ingredients to any pot of chili is a game changer for me. Like some people they like coffee, some people like cinnamon, chocolate. It adds an extra depth of flavor. And I'm not talking about milk chocolate, so we'll get into that a little bit.
Thank
But there's
God.
definitely chocolate. Yeah, no, not milk
Yeah,
chocolate,
nice dark
right?
chocolate.
Cinnamon though, is that a popular one? I
Mhm.
know
Yeah,
the coffee and the cocoa are
Right.
definitely up there now.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like no longer
Cinnamon
a
is
secret anymore.
definitely one as well.
Okay.
And again, you start off slow. You start off with a small amount, and then you taste it and you test it to see what you
What
like
it's
and what
doing.
what actually hits
Yeah,
your palate and what it does for
true.
you, right? So you don't want to just overdo it. I mean, some people like acidic. So adding a little squeeze of lime at the
Mm.
end of it, right? When you serve it, just put a little squeeze of lime over top. Sometimes that does it for someone. So it's just finding that factor for you and then just testing it out. Try different things. I mean, my personal favorite is the chocolate. So I use unsweetened cocoa powder. A little
Mhm.
goes a
Mhm.
long way, like I said. To a large pot of chili, I add maybe about 1 or 1.5 teaspoons of cocoa powder. Make sure
Yeah.
it's unsweetened. We don't want any of that hot chocolate mix. Just unsweetened. And then it really does give it like this deep flavor. The other thing I like to do, because a lot of the chili recipes you're using either diced tomato, a puree of some sort. I use fire roasted diced tomatoes because you get that little smokiness with the fire roasted. And
Mm.
then paprika. Instead of using sweet paprika, I use the smoked paprika.
So
Mhm.
Again,
good.
infusing a
Mhm.
little bit of that smokiness into it.
Yeah.
Because to me, it's all about that smokiness, that chunky. I absolutely love it. And here's another tip. Sometimes you get it a little too thin, a little too watery. I like the thickness. I like a chunk. It's just it's the way it should be eaten. I'm sorry. Think and
Yep.
chunky. So if it is a little thin, grab a cup about maybe a cup of beans, smash them up, and then just add them to the pot. It'll thicken it up.
Hmm.
That's it.
I really like the cinnamon idea. I'll be honest. I know I've heard of adding the cocoa or Nestle's quick or whatever to it. But and I've never really. I think I've even like just okay, that's an interesting whatever to it. Still hasn't made me get it, especially being a meat fan. I've kind of think, well, why? I love everything that goes into chili, but I just can't get my head around it. But when you come up with stuff like the cinnamon and stuff, I just get curious on a level more than the beans and the meat. That I wonder what the heck something like that would taste like, something savory with the cinnamon or the cocoa. So
Yeah.
curious and curiouser.
Maybe even try using like sweet potato chip,
Mm.
a nacho
Oh,
chip, a sweet potato nacho chip to dip, and then use that with the
I
chili.
love stuff like that. Yeah, where you treat your chili like a nacho situation.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I go all in, like with the scoops, like the Tostito scoops, and
Scoops
just
it,
mhm.
right?
Oh no, I wouldn't
yeah,
do that. But
Yeah.
oh,
no,
it's
but
great.
you're right, Rum. You're right
Or
though.
in the
I
hint of
think you're
lime.
both right with
Yeah.
grabbing the lime is a really nice touch. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, no,
Mhm.
there's some good ways to have chili. Mary, this is
So many good
great.
ways.
Thank you so much. We're flavor packed and very hungry, and going to go wait in line for that Costco cake because that's where we're going after the show.
See,
Thank
and
you.
I'm not making chocolate on a paraglide. What is it? Paraglider?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was paragliding and tempering chocolate.
Yeah. Tempering
You're not doing
chocolate.
that.
Not
No.
Oh,
doing
Mary,
that,
with
but
your
we're
vision,
making
you'd
good
never know how
chili.
high off the ground you were. You would just set to work and, hey, watch that first step, Mary.
Yeah.
I think for me, the first thing is why?
Yeah. Why mess around up there
It's
when
a
you can make the perfect
it's a
thing
bunny
here?
mold. It's a
Yeah.
bunny mold. That's why. Everything's
Thanks, Mary.
better in a bunny mold. Talk to you
Yeah.
next week.
All right. See you next week.
Mary Mammoliti. She joins us once a week for foodie chats. And of course, you can go to kitchenconfession.com for all that stuff as well.
So, Nizreen, our technical producer, joining us here as well. We talked about the cake there. Nizreen, what's your favorite cake of all time?
Ooh, ice cream cake.
Oh,
Dairy Queens or where? Or any?
Uh, Mainly
or Baskin
Baskin
Robbins.
Robbins of
Mm,
cookie dough ice cream cake.
Ooh.
Yeah.
that's a
Wow.
good cake.
Every
Never had.
year on my birthday, that's what I ask for. That's all I ask
Aw,
for is
are you
cookie dough
serious?
ice
Oh,
cream cake.
you don't
Yeah.
do different cakes? Like you want your classic cake on your birthday?
I like my classic cake. Yes.
That's nice.
So you only get that on your birthday, like ice cream cake? Is it pretty well like the big thing, or do you eat it at other points during the year, other ice cream cakes?
No, we usually just get ice cream cake like on our birthdays. We don't
Yeah.
really usually
You're
get
not a
them on
yeah,
other
cakes don't
occasions,
just
but we
show up every
do
other weekend. Hey man, look.
exactly.
It's a
But we
deluxe
do
2
get
cake made.
whenever we go to somebody's house, we have to get cake with us to take with us. And we
Mm.
Ah.
usually get the tuxedo or the
Yep.
marble loaf cake that
Oh,
Mary
it's
was
good too.
talking about. I
Yep.
think it's perfect to send over to somebody's house, just casual. But ice cream cake, I
Mhm.
feel like it's like for an occasion for us.
Yeah. That's one of the few cakes that my family does treat special still. Like we have
Yeah.
cake so often now because we're ridiculous. And it has lost the novelty. I'm not even gonna lie. Like so much cake has lost its novelty. Tiramisu used to be such a novel experience for me. Now I'm like, I want tiramisu and I know where the best ones are and I just go get it. But ice cream cake, you're so right. It still has
Yeah.
that. It has that like once a year or one person of the family for their birthday. So you get it once a year. And Baskin Robin has
Don't
I
you
grew
just
up having
love
Dairy
ice cream
Queen.
cake the day after? Like the
Oh, yeah?
leftover of the ice cream cake?
Like defrosted
I
from
feel
the
like it's so good. I don't know
it
if
is
it's
good.
just like
You know
uh
what I think? I think because their freezers that you get them out of are absolutely so cold that it's even more frozen, but in your own family freezer, it tends to soften and that makes it
Huh.
better.
softer. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's just more delicious when it's like creamier.
Or maybe
And
it's
I
the,
think
freezer burn you get after you open the cake and put it back in the freezer, and you guys like
Yikes.
that
maybe
If you're
taste.
getting that, that's a big no-no. So Rummy's family just dispatches with the cake completely.
You think the cake is living on
I
to the next
couldn't.
day, guys? That's funny.
I couldn't. My teeth get too cold from it. All right, Amuthan, then what else dessert-wise? Since you guys have cakes that regularly, are you a pie family at all, or do you have what is
Nah.
the little snack cake that you'd
mm-mm.
have during the week for dessert?
Snack
Or item,
cake.
excuse me, not cake,
No,
but item.
we're better
Brownies,
about that.
something?
We don't really eat during the week unless my brother has an absolute hankering, and he bakes though. He'll make brownies. Oh my gosh, the other day he made a chai
Oh.
cinnamon roll with cream cheese
Stop.
icing. Stop is right. girl, it was 12
Stop.
rolls and it did not last the night. It was
Wow,
good.
that is nice. That's
I
really
had to
great that he loves to. So Nazreen, notice I
just like
said,
step it up,
what
guys.
do you
I
guys
made
use as a
this.
snack along the side? And there is no, we don't need to. We're good about that. Besides, my brother
We
makes
made
something
it.
every second day.
I know. Not
You
every second day.
literally
Every
switched
second
in
week.
it was the same sentence, Kelly. Like
I
Yep.
tried to make
same
it sound
sentence.
healthier, you know,
Uh
Yeah.
huh.
She's
not
No,
acting
no, we
doing
like
do
the
pretty
this
good
is
average,
at
dessert
that.
during the week. No.
Yeah.
the
And
average
besides that,
family.
we only eat 3 at a time.
Yeah.
Anyways, like I said, please sign the petition so that my brother makes more of those cinnamon rolls because he's now refused to make anything for the rest of the year. He says
Look
he's
at.
reached it. Like the bar is set.
Yeah. Well, I'm more interested in your brother just, getting interested in doing nice things for me and sending me stuff and
I
products.
know.
Yeah, I need to
Kelly,
be
try this out.
invited
We
or
have Serene as well. She makes good stuff that she never properly tells us about and discloses.
Notice
'cause
notice how this turns on you, Niz.
yeah,
Welcome
like
to
she
the team.
quickly turned on. We're still
True, though.
talking about you and your
She
brother.
hasn't even invited
Yeah.
me over for her Nespresso bar experience.
Yeah,
Come
get
on.
used to this,
Stop.
Niz. Get
You
used to
don't
this
need
stuff.
an invitation, Rems.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, you had
oh, you just give me your
Yeah. You
address.
see how
hold
smooth
on.
that was? You see how
Send
smooth
me
What
your
was that?
address.
What was that? An espresso bar? Explain.
Nespresso.
Nespresso.
Nespresso, what's that?
I have a coffee bar, a little tray that's movable, and it has the syrups in the bottom with the pods all nicely displayed. And
Good
then at the
heavens.
top, I have the frother, I have the Nespresso machine, I have it's all themed gold
Oh
and
my
white.
lord.
I like how she
She's
says
gonna
nicely displayed, where Amuthan and I just cut to the chase. What's it taste like? How much of that do you make at a time?
she's gonna actually put together a video tour of her Nespresso bar. So that
I
we
know.
can
I think I need
post
that.
it.
I
Yep.
would
Yeah.
get
And to describe
views.
it for
I would get
everyone
Yeah.
here,
views.
we'll
Do
bring
it,
it out
please.
here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Folks, if you want to reach out to us, of course, you can email us, kellyco@ami.ca, and we'll have Nazreen hang around with us here too, because we've got a great conversation that I love to get into this variety stuff as we welcome in Markus McCrackin. We're going to talk about some accessible gaming. Markus, what's your favorite cake?
If I had to pick a cake, it would be carrot.
Carrot cake
Carrot
with the
cake?
cream
So
cheese.
With the cream
underrated.
cheese icing?
So
Yeah, it's really
underrated.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hold up. They don't put raisins in carrot cakes ever, right? Like
No,
this is not a thing?
no.
Okay.
Well,
Yep, I'm down.
hold on.
They used
I'm
to.
trying. Whose dog is that? Tearing the
Not
place
mine.
apart. Okay. I'm going to tell you, I actually don't know. My mom used to make it, and now that you say that, I don't think she did. But boy, because I was just blown away by the cream cheese. Oh my goodness.
This is not meant to
Markus,
be an inspiration. Like, please stop. Don't put raisins in your carrot cake. If
well,
you
I
don't
know
already.
that's your thing of making sure people don't, so no one sends you, here, this is the special carrot cake I make with nice raisins in it. Plump raisins. Rummy is like, no, take it back. I barely
Take
touched
it
it.
back.
When my wife makes it, there is no raisins.
Oh,
Okay,
man.
great.
Good.
And Markus, are you a cake family or pies, or it doesn't matter? All.
It really doesn't matter because I'm not big on either one. Once a year is good enough for me.
What?
Wow. Wow.
I like my chips and dip.
Oh, yes,
Oh,
I
so
remember
good.
you've said that.
I
Markus
feel
has
guilty now.
folks, we have Markus joining us here on the program, and one of his mandates in his mind is to improve accessibility in gaming, and we've had some wonderful conversations pertaining to this. Markus, on this edition, promises no more button mashing. So, Markus, what do you mean by this?
Well, for gamers in general, you're familiar with gaming. I've been gaming forever, so there's always a game that you have to button mash. So that's neither or say. If you're new to gaming and do not know the buttons, especially if you're visually impaired or blind, you're going to want to know what those buttons are depending on the game. So I actually had an extra controller and I had it modified with some braille or raised dots on the buttons to make it a little bit easier. I'm hoping to have somebody test it out for me. But yeah, there are games that you don't have a choice, but if you know the buttons ahead of time, it makes it a lot easier for you.
Mm-hmm. And you've taken part, or someone has taken part with you to make things more accessible on a
It's-
controller.
Yes, I have an acquaintance that I've been friends with through the CCB for a long time, and she actually volunteered to take some time and put some braille on it for me. So shout out to Julie. just an extra controller. I think you had a clip of it, but I had Braille put on the X, Y, B, and A of the Xbox controller, plus the two side. We put it on the side of the triggers, um, and the start and the thumb pad. So there's Braille all the way around it. Now, the way we did it will wear off eventually if you continuously use it. So I'm hoping this will be the first prototype for a generation to come with gamers on both the PlayStation and Xbox. It just takes that right person to see it.
Okay.
So if the right person saw it, Marcus, would you recommend this? How would you handle it if asked by the manufacturer? How much should we include this? Should this be a unit that we make X number of at a time, or wait for demand, take them on request? What would you say would be a great way to get this available where you're not having to bug Julie to do it?
Honestly, because both consoles have the adaptive controllers now, but they're specifically, my own personal opinion, are specifically meant for different disabilities, which is great. Don't
Right.
get me wrong.
Yes.
But there's no Braille on them. Like, I recently had the Access controller for the PlayStation that I did demonstrate on my channel as well, but there's nothing there to tell us what the X is. So there's nothing to even raise the X on there.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can get it to the point where the adaptive controller is either added to it or bring up a brand new control scheme for the adaptive, that way it's playable for everybody, as like everybody in the disability community. I think that would be a huge strive, majorly in a lot of ways.
You just need like at least one button to help you orient yourself to the rest of the controller, right? Like you said, the center button or something with a bump on it. Like we're used to physical dial pads of any kind on phones and payment terminals having the 5 with a raised bump on it, so we can
Really?
orient around that.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
So
If
here's one of the things I was saying to Jacob this morning, but got cut off at. I think of typing. When I went and got typing at W. Ross, we had to learn home row. You memorized it
yes, the
because
F and the
I
J,
mean, yeah,
the
I
bump
look
on it.
very funny leaning down, putting my eye on the keyboard. Right? They'd catch us
Okay.
with no problem. Get off of there. Right? But I wonder how many people, sighted people, absolutely memorized. They don't have to, or people with low vision. So somebody who's more recently blind, I have to wonder, is that more confusing? Less confusing? Because if I go use someone's computer and they have all dots on it because they put the bump dots on, I'm lost. I'm like you. I want it on the 5. I want it on the F and the J.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, just put it on somewhere where like I know how to orient around those buttons. But it doesn't make sense in every scenario. For example, like if you're in an elevator, you need to know what all the buttons are, because how are you going to know what the bump is representing,
Yeah,
right?
and
Like all
the
elevators are
elevator
not the
doesn't
same.
know who's getting on and where you're going to say, well, you only
Right.
need, you only need the
Yeah.
5th, or
But
your
if it's like a
building's not
phone
just going to
pad
do
where
that.
you know where the
Right.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pattern lies, then you just need a bump on the 5. But that's like universal design kind of thing, right? Like where an X marks deleting or going back, and then the O marks like an OK button. So that kind of stuff is fine. But
Or a
Marcus,
bank
like,
machine
yeah, exactly. Marcus, the
controller.
you have like a demonstration of you on your YouTube channel, like demoing this controller and where you've put all the buttons. So let's actually throw to that so people can get an understanding of, first of all, what a controller is and what's marked up.
Hopefully everybody can see this. This is my spare Xbox controller. There is Braille on your buttons. This is backwards here for me doing it that way. So yeah, your X, your Y, your B, and your square. X, Y, B. I just have my buttons mixed up. Anyways, as you can see, there's Braille on these 4 digits here. We have some Braille on the home button on your Xbox controller. Plus, we got some on your directional keypad here. So down, up, left, right. Or yeah, like I said, I'm doing this backwards in the camera. So you got your left, your right, down, and your up. The thumb pads we just left. Nothing. I think you can pretty much know what that is. You turn it around here, and on your left and right trigger, there's a little bit of Braille on the side here. Right there as well. The bumpers were left alone.
Hmm. It, Marcus, what made you put as much braille on it as you did for your needs? Is that for your needs, or what you would go and show somebody else who's blind and interested in doing something like that? This is the way you think in your mind is the most efficient for the most type of gaming.
Honestly, personally, I do not read Braille. I do not know how to read Braille or type Braille, but I'm thinking along the lines of somebody new to gaming that's visually impaired or blind that's picking
Hmm.
up the controls for the very first time. So I'm thinking for everybody else, um, it just needs something we need to have implemented on the already accessible controllers. But like I said, I honestly do not know how to read or print it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and I'm sure you'll
Yeah.
get feedback on it as well as more and more people get exposed to how to make a controller more accessible, what to bump up or what to, assume. Like, obviously, this feels different. Because the other thing is, we got to think about, Kelly, you kind of said it earlier, is people don't look down at their controllers. Like, sighted people aren't looking
No.
down at their controllers when they're playing games. It's more about the familiarization beforehand, right? Before you start playing.
Well, the fit in your hand
Nobody's.
too is a lot, isn't it, guys? With these things,
That's true
like
too.
Nazreen,
Yeah.
I mean, you with your comfort is the way this thing fits in your hand like a glove.
Yeah, yeah. And I get like cramps. When I'm holding the controller, it cramps. But I have to admit that I do button mash all the time.
Me too. I've won my best
For
games doing that.
Yeah, I just can never remember which buttons are what and what I'm holding. I don't know. I always just focus on the screen. I don't look at the letters of the buttons as well. So,
I don't think many people do.
yeah, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But maybe at least if you have the braille, that'll wear out the braille and not the controller
Yeah, it'll
itself.
help. I feel
Yeah.
like it would help. Yeah.
It'll
Well, and even
prolong.
just feeling the shape of it, right, Marcus? Whether you
Mhm.
read Braille or not, you know that button because you're so used to doing what you do by just that whether it's an X, an O, or whatever you put on it, it's that familiarity and knowing it and relying on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been gaming since I was little. So, like the original Nintendo, for instance, that controller literally had two buttons. So
Yeah.
technically, it would be the A and the B, and then you had your thumb pad. So
Uh-huh.
you take that, and with today's controls, it's a little bit, well, a lot more advanced. And for myself, I did memorize everything. It's easy for you to do. So if I'll use The Last of Us, for instance, they have a spot where you can go read the controls within the game menu. So if you're sitting there just pushing the buttons, it'll tell you what it is. So the first half hour of The Last of Us that I'm replaying, actually, it's a tutorial. So if you pass the one check mark, it'll tell you, okay,
Mm.
this button here is what you need to do moving forward. Now, if you don't know what button they're talking about, you're not going to be able to feel it
That was a
on the
hard game.
controls.
Yeah. I struggled with that game with the controller. That was pretty hard. There was a
Yeah.
lot of descriptions and they were telling you to follow instructions on which button to use and I'm like, I don't even know which button where
Right.
I have to bend and whatever it may be. It was such a tough game.
So do you guys feel like you had to relearn controllers depending on the game that you're playing? Like it's the exact
I
same
feel like
controller,
yeah,
but the focus feels
that's
different. So you're like memorizing it?
yeah.
Maybe? Huh.
I think that's the
I never
difficult
thought
part
about it
for
that way.
me because I feel like each game has a different
Set of rules,
um
set of
set of rules. Yeah.
set
Yeah,
of
yeah. And you're
use
learning
a use
combos, for
case.
example, in a fighting scenario in like Mortal Kombat or something, learning a
I mash the
combo.
buttons.
Yep.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah.
Or
But you know what I
shooting,
Mortal
right,
mean? Like it
Kombat
Marcus?
could
calls
feel
for
very
it. Yeah.
Yep.
complicated. Right,
Yep.
versus another kind of game. I don't know, like Grand Theft Auto or whatever. Like the combos can feel different in which case the fit of the controller and how you're using it feels different. So the braille
Mm.
Mhm.
can live on.
Well, and that's what I think. And like Marcus says, you don't have to know the braille. It is a use case to case to case,
It's just
like
a
we would do
tactile
with the
thing.
machine. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
the X
Yeah,
and
yeah.
O on a bank machine. You know, in different circumstances, what you're doing may do different things. So there's no sense putting
Uh-huh.
this is for the checking account. This is for it doesn't matter because when you're depending what application you're
You just learn.
utilizing, it's going to do
Mm.
something different. Marcus, always wonderful to talk to you, buddy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Markus McCrackin. For any game studios watching, guys, reach out to Markus. He's got the answers, and we will speak to him on the program Talking Gaming once a month. Nazreen, Ramya, appreciate you being here. Tomorrow on the show, we introduce Brock Richardson. Really, we reintroduce Brock, host of the Neutral Zone podcast and regular co-host on some Fridays here on this show. Mike Farrell stopped by to highlight the graphic audio HP Lovecraft layer of the Crystal Thing. Blind fashion designer in New York, Natalie Trevon, tells us about her clothing line, Not Your Inspiration. On behalf of Ramya Muthan, technical producer Nazreen Abdul-Majid, I'm Kelly McDonald. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great day.
Thanks for tuning in to Kelly and Company. Follow us on all social media, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more.